Hello out to all you wonderful people. This is Andre the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear listening into another What If discussion from me. And, okay, before I really get into it, last weekend I did a podcast for conceptualizing a game console. It was myself, Action Jack, Mark of Let's Switch Games, and my fiance Love Potion. And that discussion, honestly, one, it was a lot of fun. Two, there were some interesting concepts that came out of it. Now, I'm going to do my own solo version of what I would prefer for a game console made by myself. Like if I had the capital to do it and I just was like, I'm going to go gung-ho and jump into the gaming industry. This is how I would do it. Now, I may borrow some concepts from that discussion. I'm not going to take everything because that was a group project and this is more of a solo expedition. So, I'm going to give you guys my own solo game console concept. And first of all, it will be a hybrid console. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It's going to be a hybrid console because I think that is a good way to go. One, because that covers both your handheld players as well as your home console players. And depending on how you do it, you could make this platform sustainable for a very long time without having to do new hardware iterations until you actually come up with a completely different concept or you really, really, really have no choice. Because there's ways to improve it without having to change out everything. Okay. Secondly, there are going to be multiple different controller types, and I think that I would personally partner with Power A and have them making my main line of controllers for the console. Firstly, the physical nature of the hybrid itself is going to have all the buttons and stuff on it. I'm not going to do the Nintendo Switch thing. I'm going to make the physical console more like the Wii U gamepad, as far as like how the button layout and stuff is and the designs, but the triggers would be analog rather than digital. I think that this a 6.5 to a 7.5 inch screen on it would be okay. Max resolution in handheld form factor 1080p, nothing beyond that. And and it would have a dock. And even when docked, nothing above 1440p because it's not needed. Personally, it's just not needed. And plus, that comes with more. Like that honestly comes with higher budgets for the resources to get it to work that way. So yeah, no, not beyond 1440p. Not going to do it. But there would be multiple controllers, and my main controller for a single player would be like the Wii U Pro controller, but it would have the gyro in it. It would also have a either a port. Well, it would have a built-in mic and speakers automatically. Have gyro. Would I want an NFC thing in there? Not necessarily, because I don't know if I'd want to be thinking about using it in every game. So that maybe not. Um, Gyro. I would want some sort of haptic feedback in the controller that kind of operates how Nintendo did the HD Rumble for the Switch. There would be an ambidextrous controller that would be very much like the Wii Remote Nunchuck. Honestly, I would pretty much take those designs and make a controller set like that, but it would be completely wireless, so you wouldn't have to physically tether them to each other. And on top of that, there would be a sensor bar built into the physical device itself, much like the Wii U had the sensor bar built into the top. The gamepad had the sensor bar built into the top of it, as well as the sensor bar that connects to the dock that can be plugged into the TV. I mean, not plugged into the TV, near the TV for motion control and aiming and stuff like that. The media format for this would be cartridges. They're easier to maintain, maybe a little bit more costly, but they last longer. And on top of that, you can play the games right off of the medium without too many problems. So I wouldn't need to go overboard on storage capacity for this system. Thinking, because I'm doing this all off the top of my head. So the Pro Controller and ambidextrous motion controller would be a proprietary arcade stick from my platform. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, because I would be intending on trying to get as many licenses for older arcade games and bringing them over, as well as potentially making other games that fit those arcade styles as like budget games for people to get. So I'd want to have that availability there for people to be able to just not plug in, but sit down with this controller and play right off the bat. I mean, you'd be able to play with all controllers, but still, for comfort reasons. Okay, next thing, I would also be going with an SSD, a removable SSD, but the base would be a 512 gigabyte SSD being in it, and storage would be expandable with a micro SDXC card up to two terabytes is what I think the max is now. So up to 2 terabytes, obviously. That way everything can kind of be streamlined. So if you don't really feel like changing out the SSD, you can just slot in a micro SDXC, and there are some pretty decent ones that can give you fast read speeds. I mean, it's really going to come down to how quickly the games load, but it shouldn't affect play performance too much. I'm thinking now, as far as like the theme of this, I would want a lot of customization to be doable. So I would work with a multitude of different brands in order to be able to swap out faceplates on controllers and even the console itself, and as well as the dock, so that someone can tailor make the experience to the physical experience to how they want it to be, and having a multitude of different colored controllers and such like that, which I think would be pretty cool. Now down to the operating system. Off the bat, I'd want folders and things to be available, but I'd make the opening screen very simple. And for people that like to go into more detail and take their time and format it the way they want, there would be advanced features to bring in different menu options to allow you to have it. So in the onset, you'll see a quick list of what games you have available on your platform, as well as the storefront to purchase the games. That's it for the start. Now, if you want to add your social media stuff, you can put little feeds in. For that, you'll have the option to do it. And there would be themes. The themes could be based around different characters from my first party lineup, as well as popular third parties that decide they want to partner and have the themes put in. The themes would not be free. You'd have to pay for them. Not all of them would be paid, but any third party themes you'd have to pay for. First party themes would be free. Put it that way. And you'd also be able to do folders for your content so that you don't have to have everything spread out, and you can organize it in the order that you want it to go in. There would also be ways to simplify it, like putting everything in alphabetical order, or putting everything in by release date or by company, stuff like that, depending on how somebody wants to do it. Let me think. I got so much stuff floating around in my head. definitely would have an online component, and I'd probably try to make it as cheap as possible to do online play. But so I'd probably stick around with what Nintendo's prices are for like an online service, unless I decided to add in a service that was like Miiverse, which I probably would, so that people could verify, oh, this person has this game. I know they have this game. They're playing it, and it'll show that they own the game and they know what they're talking about. So probably for baseline operations, keep it at the price Nintendo has, and if somebody wants to be able to get into that social network, add in an additional $5. That way, if people want it, they can have it. So it's a choice. And I'm not talking about like a month, like a year, because I think it could be managed if it was like an additional $5 a year for somebody, they probably wouldn't be thinking too much about it. Uh, what else am I thinking about? Now, for my main style of games, there'd be five: action adventure, fighting, FPS, racing, and damn, what was the last one I had thought about? Platformer. Platformer. Because those I think are the ones that could do the best as far as drawing in a lot of attention and can show off what the hardware of the console would be able to be capable of doing. Now, all of my first party titles would have an element of customization to them, meaning that they're in the game, you'd be able to, depending on what type of game it is, you'd be able to make your own levels or own tracks and stuff like that. So that people could actually, have fun with it and dive deeper into the game and play for longer hours. But I would also have my own development software for the platform, simplified development software that kind of runs along the lines of Project Spark, Dreams, and Game Builder Garage. But with that, I would allow people to be able to sell their games on the storefront of the console. So you don't have to have the engine to play those games. You could just purchase them, but there would be a set limit to it. So if you're using outside the game development engine and you bring your game in, then you can set your price basically to whatever you want to that you feel is reasonable. But if you're using the simplified engine that's already there with the console, well, not already there because it would be a purchased item, but you'd be able to sell your games, I think, at max $10, depending on how big the game is. So I think that that's fair. I think that that's a fair trade. I'd also partner with Bitmoji so that you could use the Bitstrips characters and their SDK as part of the game development engine, and it would also be your system's main avatar. So you could have that avatar there, and it would link to your Bitstrips account. And I think that that would be a smart way to go about it. It would work out pretty well. Um, let's see, what else was I thinking about? uh, Now, as far as the dock, because I mentioned that dock would have to be usable and you can run games up to 1440p, and you'd have to have the dock to do that. So the dock would have hardware in it. It would have a fan. It would boost the power output of. Well, it would have its own power output, not boost the power output of the tablet, so to speak. But connecting the tablet to it allows you to connect it to a monitor or a television. Obviously, it would have a LAN port in it, three USB 3.0 or 3.1 slots, and obviously it would, as I've already said it would have its own hardware in it and a cooling fan to keep it from overheating, but it would be able to boost the wattage of the hardware of the tablet as well as the parts that are in it in order to up give you better graphics and up the resolution and stuff like that. Now, I'm not one that's specifically worried about like DLSS and ray tracing and all that. That's not a big concern to me. If there's a way to do it without overtaxing the hardware, then sure, I'll go for it. But I'd kind of have to study that stuff and get a better understanding of how it all works in order to even consider it. So, in the onset, it's not a priority. Priority is trying to make good games and get them out for people to be able to enjoy. Not worry about if I have the most crisp graphics on the planet. I don't care. I want the games to run well and be fun. And on top of that, having a cartridge medium, I don't have to force people to buy larger bits of storage for my console in order to store a lot of games or to save data. I just don't have to. Now, what else was I thinking about? Covered the controllers, covered the dock just now, customization options, game styles that I'll be promoting most, social network features, OS slightly. What else was I thinking about? There was something else that came from like, now this would be part of the OS, but when you launch the console, it would ask, one, if this is your first ever game console. Two, if you've been playing games for a long time. Three, your general interest. And four, how much time you plan to or usually play video games. This is mostly to get an idea of, one, if somebody's an experienced gamer or not. Two, what subjects or styles of things would draw interest to them. So, like if you love mystery novels, then you might like a game like Murdered Soul Suspect. I mean, or say you like action-oriented stories, then you'll probably like something like I'm trying to think of a game like Bayonetta. So it really just breaks down the categories so it can ask you if you want to have it regularly suggest games to you that might fit your style, and two, to give you an idea of stuff that may be easier to get into and to kind of just learn a certain type of style of game before you really get into the more complex stuff. So basically, it'd be an algorithm to help you if you're not really familiar with gaming, or if you just want to see what other cool stuff that somebody might talk about that you just don't come across normally, what that type of stuff is that appears in the storefronts for you, as well as what you already have on your console that can work within that. You'd also be able to have multiple platforms and have your account be utilized on 2 to 3 maximum. You can't just freely distribute your profile across, because then I know people like the game share and nothing would be getting sold. So you'd have to be careful about that. What else? I think I covered most of the bases. I think I did cover most of the bases. But for that racing game, it'd be very much like F-Zero, because I'm a huge F-Zero fan, and that would be my main baby there for me personally. So it doesn't matter if it sold well or not, I would still be trying to get it made and promoted. But I think that this is a decent start for what would be a console if I were to be the head of everything and run it myself. Let me know what you guys think, because I mean, like I said, this kind of takes some things from what we talked about during that Game Idea Foundry Talk episode 7 But I didn't want to take everything out of that because, again, like I said, that was a group project, and this is more of a solo kind of thing. Just me individually, the stuff that I would find to be more important to do. Um, so anybody can give their opinions, what you think would be, how you think this would play out or whatever. But me personally, it's just like I see game consoles and I see that there are a lot of people that are interested in gaming, but after having that discussion, I kind of took a step back and said, now I'm understanding why gamers have a certain stigma because once we get into it, we kind of we kind of feel ourselves a little bit, and I know I do. I'm not even gonna lie, I know I do, especially when it's something I'm good at. So my thought process is having customization and user generated content be the forefront, as well as having the system be able to be tailored to the gamer themselves rather than tailoring the gamer to the system. So anybody from the most experienced to the least experienced can kind of get a good deal of enjoyment out of this and possibly build a good and functioning community out of it. At least that would be the hope if I could get it done. Again, I'm not a person in position to do so at this current point in my life. Hey, maybe someday I will be. But right now, that's not an option. So I'm going to end it here. Thank you guys very much for listening in. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games. Peace out, everybody.